Hello and welcome to New Future. I hope you've all been very well. In this video, we're going to be focusing on Stake, which is an Australian brokerage, and they've been around for a few years now, and it's one of the few ways that people have been able to buy shares from the US. And personally, I've been using it from pretty much the beginning, so I've sort of seen their growth as they went along. I really like their layout, their branding, and it's all really simplified. When you look at most of the other brokerages in Australia, most of them are very messy, complicated, and they throw a lot of figures and numbers at you. And what I liked about Stake is they simplified the whole thing and it made it accessible for most people. But I always felt there was one thing missing, and that's the ability to buy shares from our own share market, that being the ASX. I just have to put the little disclaimer that this is for entertainment purposes only and that this is not financial advice. With that said, let's talk about Stake, what the benefits are, what it's like to use, and all of that information. I actually remember emailing them maybe a year or two ago and saying, hey, have you thought about ever offering the ASX? Because I like your interface, I like what you stand for, and I like the simplicity and how easy they make it to actually buy shares. And they responded and said, we're looking into it, hopefully in the future. Well, that time in the future has now come. I signed up pretty early on so that I'd have easy access to their beta version. And now they've made it accessible for more people. I've now signed up. And in this video, I'm going to go through the processes, how easy it is to set up, what it's like to use. And I'm actually going to transfer all of my shares from my previous brokerage, which was South Wealth, and move it into Stake. And I'm doing it for a very specific reason, and I'll explain that as we go along. So let's have a look at Stake here. We can see here, this is their homepage, ASX and Wall St at your fingertips. Invest in over 8,000 ASX and US stocks and ETFs. There's a lot of ands there, probably reword that a little bit different, but that's fine, we get the point. But the most important thing here is $3 ASX trades. If you're in the US, you're probably used to free trades, but unfortunately it's something that we haven't ever had access to here in Australia if you want to buy from the ASX. And up until now, one of the cheapest options was who I was with, South Wealth, which was $9.50 trades. There were other platforms such as Superhero, which allows you to do very similar things. They have a $5 brokerage fee, but my problem with it is that it's not CHESS sponsored, which means that you don't actually own the shares. Superhero will buy them on your behalf, and what that means is that if anything ever happened to Superhero, they shut up shop for whatever reason, they go bankrupt, anything like that, you've just lost all your shares. You don't actually have those shares to your name. Unlike anything that's CHESS sponsored, just like what South Wealth is, so is Stake. And that's the most important thing. I would not even be considering it if it wasn't CHESS sponsored. And that's really exciting because it means that you own those shares, they're to your name. It makes tax a lot easier. You don't have to go through a lot of hoops and a lot of forms to actually claim your tax. It's all there and registered to your name. But the most important thing, it means you actually own those shares yourself. And the fact it's only $3, we've gone from $9.50 now to $3 with Stake, which is an incredible deal. It means that I'm going to be able to purchase a lot more shares with a lot less money because you don't have to worry about the brokerage cut. And they also have US trades with a $0 brokerage, but do remember that you don't actually own those shares. Stake are buying them on your behalf. However, they are US trades, so that's kind of expected. It's a lot harder to buy it in your name since you're not actually a US citizen if you're here in Australia. And with Stake, there's two ways of logging in. The first way is you can go on the app, you can download the app and sign in. The other option is you can go on the computer. And from my experience, there isn't really too much difference between the two. So it's not like a lot of the platforms, which gives you a lot more information or control when you log into the online website. And because it is very simplified, there isn't a lot of information that you need to be able to see online. So let's go through the process, logging in and seeing what that's like. So once you've signed up, you'll see a pop-up like this, which explains the ASX side of Stake. Let's click on take a look and see what it's like. The first thing is live trading. So pretty much typical, you'd see this with any of the platforms. It'll show you what the market's doing, what various ETFs are doing, and you can get an understanding of the market in real time. I like the layout, it's very clean and easy to understand, and this is a great benefit for the platform. Let's go next. Again, here's the $3 flat fee. And if you've got a bunch of friends who are interested in signing up, you can basically waive this fee. If you get them to sign up, Stake will basically give you a year of free trades. And this is also a great benefit. Again, as we mentioned, it's CHESS sponsored. So you get your own HIN, holder identification number, which is basically a number that you're given when you sign up to one of these platforms. And you can have multiple of these HINs. So it's not like you have a single HIN across all platforms. You're given one effectively per platform you sign up to. So keep this in mind. And this can get used for multiple reasons. Firstly, it means that these trades are under your name, so you own them, but also it's easier at tax time. All this information is a lot easier for your accountant to get a hold of to do your tax. And as I mentioned, you can transfer all of your existing ASX shares into Stake with a patent pending, which I'm assuming they've got their own process of doing this, and they're getting a patent on this. And as I mentioned, you can also trade on the US trading markets, so with Stake Wall Street, as they call it. So this is something they've already had. So if you've signed up in the past, then you'll already have an account. And if you sign up to the Australian side, you'll just have the Australian option in the corner underneath Wall Street. And it's actually really easy. I'm actually really enjoying having it all in one platform instead of switching apps that have different interfaces and their own little ways how they work. It's nice to have them in the one. You can easily just flick between them. And I find myself doing that quite regularly. So the main reason I'm switching from South Wealth to Stake is for two reasons. Firstly, personally, I didn't really like the layout or the design of South Wealth. It seemed a lot convoluted and complicated, and it showed me a lot of things that I didn't really need to see. And there's only really a few things that I do want to see with any of my trades, because I'm not one of these people who watch day by day, how the trades are going, and that's not important too much for me. And the other reason why I'm moving across is, again, because of that $3 trade. It means I can do smaller trades more often because I have a smaller fee. This means I can do about 3 times the trades while still spending the same amount or less on this brokerage fee. And it's something that I've been waiting for. There's been a lot of evolution in the US market, and unfortunately the ASX, which I do most of my trading in, it feels like it's 10 years behind all of the other marketplaces available. So finally it feels like there's a company that's pushing against the grain, and I want to support that. Let's discuss how it was to transfer all of my shares from South Wealth to Stake, because that's one of the things that they keep talking about, how it's really easy and simple to do, and it's all online. So I went online, I found the form and the steps that explain how to do this, and it's relatively easy. It's basically a barcode which you scan from the website. It'll take you into the app. The only thing is, make sure that you're already on the ASX side of the app, because if you're in the Wall Street side of the app, it just won't do anything. So make sure that you are in the ASX section. Once you're there, you can simply fill out the form. It's relatively easy. It took me about 10 minutes and then it was done. The next thing, which kind of broke that whole completely digital element of it, is the fact that they then emailed me, can you please print out this form, sign it, scan it, and send it back to us. It had it pre-filled out, I just had to sign it. But it did break that whole completely digital concept. And I'm sure it's something they're working on in the future. It's probably something to do with regulatory process to get it transferred from one brokerage to another. That was the only thing that broke it, but it was relatively easy and harmless to do all the same. So once I did that, pretty easy, few days later, and they're now showing in my brokerage. And so now they're there, it's really easy to look at both my US trades and my ASX trades. Still, I'm going to put majority of my money in the ASX. It's easy to work in one currency. I learnt this the hard way. I ended up buying a whole heap of shares when 2020 happened and we had the whole virus. And what happened was I made a lot of gains, yes, but I actually lost a lot in the currency conversion. And that's the problem you have when you're buying US shares, is that your money actually gets converted to USD before you can actually buy anything. And therefore, depending on where the currency is at the time, that can cause a few problems. So now let's discuss some things I think they should work on for the future. And I'm sure it's stuff that they're considering, but it's something that I'd like them to see. Personally, I find a lot of the information is a little bit too simplistic. Reading into what they're doing at the moment, they are working on having more information available to you. At the moment, it is effectively just your shares and a little bit of information about each, how it's doing, your total gains or losses, basic information like that. So I've gone ahead and put it into Photoshop and just mocked up very quickly how they could expand the information they give us so that we have more information on this page. And it looks something like this. We've added a few things. We've added a pie chart which shows you the weighting of any set sector within your shares. And on the side, it also has the overall market and how your portfolio is performing. This is a feature which I literally took a screenshot out of my Southwealth account just so you can see how it works. So this exact feature is available in Southwealth, where it shows you how you are going compares to the market. And as you can see, over the last few years, I actually did pretty well. And then there is the typical holdings. So again, this is something that I've mocked up myself, and I've taken ideas from other platforms where I think they can integrate them into the one platform and makes things a lot easier, and it gives people more of an overall view of their holdings, but also how they're doing, their weightings, so you can make sure you've got a nice, well-rounded portfolio and information like that. And I think these are going to become more useful the more trades you do, and since they've lowered the transaction fee, it's going to make a lot easier to purchase and sell shares. And you'll find over time with this information, even though it's quite simple, you'll be able to fine-tune your own portfolio to make it just how you want it. One company that does this really well in the US is M1 Finance. Now, it's a lot easier in the US because they have free trades, so you can easily move money around your portfolio, and as soon as you have any brokerage fees, even though it's really small, this can cause some friction in that. And looking at M1 Finance here, I'd like to take a few leaves out of their book, some ideas which Stake could implement in their own way. Automatic payments. Your money will go into your cash balance, which is normal. All platforms have this, but as it reaches a certain amount, it will automatically send this money into any set sector depending on what you decide at the time. And M1 Finance has an auto invest, a little toggle, which you can switch. It'll automatically send that money where it needs to go. Obviously, it's a lot easier with M1 Finance because you got free trades. We don't have free trades here in Australia, so there's probably a lot more red tape involved with this. I'm not an expert. Obviously, Stake know a lot more than we do about this, but I think even just giving that as an option. Now, this is all easier said than done, and I'm sure it's something they've considered. Obviously, it's not so easy, and there's probably a lot of red tape involved with it because you're not actually making those decisions. Again, comes down to that friction within the ASX, and if anyone could do it, I'm sure it would be Stake. At the very least, give us a pie graph that shows us more information about those shares. And it sounds like it's something they're working on. So hopefully they can stick to that, they can work on that. And unlike Southwealth, it threw a lot of information that I just really don't care about on a daily basis, along with all the social elements, which I really don't care about too much, which I'm sure they're using as a selling point. The fact they have all these social features, that's not important to me at all. I don't want to compare myself to anyone else. I just want to look at my own portfolio, how it's doing, compare it to the market, and make sure that I'm actually doing okay. So a little bit more information would be best on my portfolio specifically, seeing more graphs, pie charts, things like that. I'm sure it's stuff they're working on. So if they can focus on that and really flesh that out, everything else works really well. I'd just really like to start to see some smart features and some AI elements that allow us to automate a lot of the processes which we normally do. And the one thing I would like to say about Stake is that it actually is really easy to set up. My process with Southwealth was actually quite complicated. I actually had to go through many steps. I had to go through and create an ANZ bank account for the money to sit in when it's not in the market. That whole process took about a week to do. And Stake was pretty much instant. They automatically set up the bank account for you. It's all in the background. And I didn't have to worry too much about it. So that was really good to see. They've really simplified the signing up process for people. Really, there isn't really too many other negatives to this platform. It's simplifying the process, so it's easier for retail investors to get involved. It's a clean interface, and I'm always a fan of great design. That's something they do really well. It's Australian, so we can support them and help them make it easier for other people to invest. And it's all under the one roof. So I can't really give too many negatives. Maybe 1 month and 6 months in, I'll give you my thoughts on the overall experience with the app. But at the moment, I'm really liking it. They're very quick on responding if you have any issues. And the fact they're here in Australia, it makes everything a lot easier to deal with. So having said that, thanks for watching. If you haven't watched any of my other videos, make sure you subscribe. And because this is a new channel, make sure you share it with your friends. And I'll see you in the next one.